I have been taking us through the book of Nehemiah. And let me tell you what's so cool about the book of Nehemiah. I hate to say it that way, but there's something very cool about the book of Nehemiah. If you split the book of Nehemiah in half, roughly, that's chapters 1 through 6, you find a man who has gone to restore the place of worship. And chapters 7 through 13, the restoration of the people. And what I have really been enjoying is that each chapter tends to provide us with some timeless messages, timeless information. As we turn to the 6th chapter, don't say, wow, this is kind of a gloomy book, because what we're seeing is a pattern. And it is a pattern. It's a pattern that if you're reading the Bible, you will know is true. If you're not reading the Bible and you tend to watch things on TV and listen to common preachments, there'll be a contradiction in what I'm saying as to what the world out there is saying. You see, when you come to Christ, first of all, nobody comes except that they be drawn first. That's prevenient grace. But when you come, you don't always come with both feet in. How many know that's true? Yeah, okay, good, that's most of you. You come, and it's like a gradual work that God, some people have these incredible things that happen, and then they'll go around and they'll testify as if that is the focus of their faith. But in reality, the greater thing is God's patience to keep working on these crocks of clay. So when I say there's a pattern here, the pattern is any time you are going to do something for God, you can be sure that you're going to come under attack. Now, whether that attack is blatantly just a blanket of lies, or whether it's just little something, an aggravant, enough to get you distracted. I want you to remember that this book, and probably more specifically the 6th chapter, shows me, and I pray it'll show you, that the devil has not changed at all. In fact, when you begin to study this, you begin to realize that the common things that happened to Nehemiah wasn't of a special bloodline. He wasn't of a special priesthood. He was just a man, and I hope to show you, before I do anything else, about his character. Here is a good man doing a great work. Now, anybody who stops to read the book, and I'm not going to go back and review the chapters. If you want to review, you'll have to go back and listen to the messages. But you see a man of great faith, of prayer, of perseverance, and of clarity, because as the burden was put in his heart, he began the task, and he did not stop until in the 6th chapter, the 15th verse, it says, so the wall was finished. 52 days, or if you like it better, 7 weeks to complete the restoration and the rebuilding of the wall. Not such a glamorous thing. If you think about it, it'd be more glamorous to build the temple or to build the altar. Who wants to know about wall building? Well, there's something rather important, and I'll tell you what it is. It's ironic that I'm studying this, and it was given to me, I think, early last week, an envelope of 3 chapters out of the next pulpit, which I'm reading through to give back to you. And in 1980, that's 35 years ago, Dr. Scott was preaching through a series of messages that carry the very same tone. Not specifically what I'm doing. The messages I'm doing carry a little bit different detail. But the idea is that certain things do not change when you commit your way. Now, we don't know what Nehemiah's life was like. We only know certain things that are told to us at the beginning of the book bearing his name. That's all. We don't know if he was a ruthless person or a good person. We can only know what is given for us to know here, and that's what anybody pursuing God should be concerned with. God knows, by the way, every single person has a past. Every single person. And every single person has a future in Christ. Now, you can deceive yourself and say you're special and you're different and you don't have anything behind you, but that would be a lie. Or you can recognize we don't know Nehemiah's past, we just know where it starts. And where it starts is the place where God wants us to focus our attention on the character of Nehemiah. He wasn't seeking fame, he wasn't seeking notoriety, but rather is concerned with the place of worship and God's people. Now, the devil knows he has but a short time. And some of us, we take spiritual vacations. We forget. See, this is how good this message I'm referring to that is 35 years old. Dr. Scott said, you know, you can get out of the pressure cooker. His words, just quit, right? Just quit. And you will have the pressure and the attacks off your back. It's easy to quit. And the devil will probably give you peace for a time. But I love what he said in that message that I just finished reading, which is if you leave the place, in this case we'll talk about Nehemiah, we'll talk about you at Faith Center, we'll talk about me. You leave the place of persecution, you leave the place of affliction, you leave the place where there is the greatest conflict, you will also leave the place of blessing, because that's where the blessing occurs. It doesn't occur on the mountaintop. It doesn't occur when every day is a good day, whatever day that day is of the book. It occurs when you are in God's hands, being squeezed just a little bit more every day. And so I thought this was interesting. You know, I could stand here and read that message that was preached 35 years ago. It would fit as if a page fitting into the book right in front of me perfectly. Nothing has changed. We know that the devil can transform himself into an angel of light. We know that when we talk about the devil or the spirits trying to lure people away, I want you to think for a minute about what has happened in your life. Maybe it's the pressure of people that under the guise of being your family or your friends, you know, while you were on the corner selling drugs or getting high, no one was on your back, but the minute you came to church, everybody started to criticize you. Now, maybe that's not true for most of you, but it's going to be true for many of you. The minute you turned and committed your way, that's when it all started. So we have a man here who, up until this point, we know nothing except for he is a cupbearer to the king, and that would mean he would have to follow a protocol. Now, when we read that in the opening chapter, when it says that he was cupbearer to the king, you have got to realize that that position, you might say, well, that's kind of like a position for people who can't do very much else. You're mistaken. That would be a position that would require that the man who would fill that position be able to, as I said, follow protocol, be a servant of the highest rank, that is, be in close proximity with the king. That means interfacing, speaking when you are spoken to, being able to be in the king's presence and function in that realm requires an understanding of the high degree of respect that this Nehemiah had. So when we talk about the man's character, when Nehemiah would pour the wine for the king, he poured in such a way as to have 3 fingers on the goblet to make it easy for the king to take the cup, and then with a ladle he would pour into his left hand some of the wine, and he would immediately take it down, because if he didn't drop dead, the king knew it was safe to drink. Gives new meaning to a little wine for the stomach's sake, right? But his comportment, the way he carried himself, this would require a special person. And we talk about when he hears the news of what has happened in Jerusalem, it says he fasted, he prayed, he wept. So we're beginning to see the character of this man only from what we know. And that's what we should be concerned with, the character of what is revealed in these pages. We know why the people were carried away into captivity. You don't need to do much mystery work for that. God prophesied it through the prophet Jeremiah 70 years because of the people's whoring, because of their chasing after other gods, their unfaithfulness, their refusal to hear the prophets. Finally, God said, that's it. And 3 successive waves were carried away. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. So whatever the man did prior to this time, we're not interested. We're interested in what he did at the moment that this burden was placed on his heart. And I wish to God that I could tell all the people, the ones who listen to me on the internet, the ones who hear me on radio somewhere, the ones who watch on TV. And that should be your concern. I would be very worried if you went to hear someone teach the Bible who had never lived and professed to have lived life to the point of understanding there is nothing more worthy and we'll say exceptional than what is revealed to us about God for our lives in the Bible. I wouldn't want to listen to someone who has not lived life enough to know that, well, there may be pleasure in sin for a season, and there may be pleasure in the world for a time. But at some point, you realize that God's got something infinitely better for you, and you begin to steadfastly pursue understanding what saith the word of the Lord. So we have here, I'm looking at the character of this man, an excellent rapport with the king, probably in the king's eyes, an important person because the king grants him letters for safety, letters for provision, gives him guards, gives him horsemen. There's a reason why I'm setting up the person of Nehemiah. I want you to, don't just think I'm doing some review. I'm trying to give you the character of the man, the things we know about. So to this point, there is nothing in Nehemiah's character that we have seen that somebody could point at and say, he shouldn't have gone, or he wasn't the one. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? His character was spot on from what is revealed. The most important thing about Nehemiah is he was a man of faith. We know that he prayed to the God of heaven. So when we kind of have this picture, we know that when he arrives at Jerusalem, he wastes no time to go out and assess the damage. Maybe some other person would have gone to Jerusalem and said, hey, while I'm here, let's kick up a party for a couple of days. You feed me, bring on the women and the wine, and after that, we'll get to work. But he went straight to work, all business, all about God's business. So we've seen Nehemiah's antagonist have a general attack on the people. And now in this 6th chapter, the attack will focus directly and personally at Nehemiah. Now the big question is, what did Nehemiah do to deserve this treatment? And the question might be asked of a young man named Joseph who was sold by his brothers into slavery. What did Joseph do to deserve being sold into slavery and to deserve being mistreated and thrown into prison? But yet God entered into that cruelty, and he was in prison for a purpose. Nehemiah was in captivity for a reason, stayed behind that until the time was right where he would have favor with the king. And then and only then he goes to build. And we know in the 6th chapter it says they finished the wall. So the question again is, who would have anything against Nehemiah? The 6th chapter opens with, now it came to pass when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, and if you have in your margin a number, it's the same. Geshem is the same as Gashmu. Same name, Geshem or Gashmu the Arabian. So isn't it interesting? Up until this point, we've only heard of Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And listen to what Nehemiah says, and the rest of our enemies. We've only had 3 itemized, though. So I want you to think on that, that sometimes when people say, boy, you have enemies. And I don't want you to go straightway thinking, don't think about me. See, I have plenty of enemies, but don't think about me. I want you to kind of take this in, because there's a message for every single person sitting in front of me today. Believe it or not, this is not just a good plowing through the 6th chapter. There's something for everybody here. I think you'll come to see that when I'm done. So, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And the rest of our enemies heard that I builded the wall and that there was no breach left therein, though at the time I had not set up the doors upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem, or Gashmu, sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. So let's stop there. And sometimes I've been doing this principally in Nehemiah. I've been using technique of using words that all begin with the same letter so that you can put it in the margin. Remember, write in your Bible, make notes. Just don't do what I do where you have so much notes you can't read what you wrote. But I want you to put for this 6th chapter in verse 2, here are emissaries. And I have a subheading for this, which is emissaries from hell or close by. Now, when it says, they sent unto him, saying, Come, let us meet together, I want you to think that it might have sounded like this. They probably sent him a letter that said, Dear brother Nehemiah, you are a great man doing a great work. See, the devil always uses flattery, uses the same tactics. Now, come on down. Come meet us. Have a little compromise here. That's the second thing the devil always manages to get the saints to do, is to compromise under pressure. Maybe we can have a little mediation. Talk about this. See, the devil always has that, come, let us reason together thing going on, and for some, we succumb to it. Now, I have a subheading for this verse 2, when they said, let's gather in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. And Nehemiah said, oh no. As in, not. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book. Now, the King James says, but they thought to do me mischief. And I looked at one of the translations. It was the Wycliffe. Says, come thou into a field and smite we a bond of peace. And when I read that, I thought immediately of Cain and Abel. I'm sure there was a let us reason moment before one brother killed the other. So when it says they thought to do me mischief, there's another version, the NLT says, I realized they plotted to harm me. Now, this is what's mind-boggling. 4 times they did this to him. 4 times. And 4 times, he's going to give the same answer. He says he sent messengers unto them. Let me read through this verse 3. Sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and come down to you? And I need to explain this because his answer in English may sound a little bit like an inflated head. Like, hey, listen, I'm really important here. Don't bother me. But if you're going to pay attention, the word messenger is from the same Hebrew word where we get the cognate of angel. Ultimately can take you back to a word that means king. And the word for doing a great work. So just to give you an idea, messengers, strong 4397, great work 4399. They're 2 words away. And this word, this Hebrew word for work, is very important, and I'll tell you why. I counted at least 9 Hebrew words for the word work, but where this word is used is first used in Genesis 2:2 when it says that the Lord rested from his work. And then the next place you will find this word, specifically a cognate of the word messenger, is where they are working on the tabernacle. Exodus 35, Exodus 36. So it is a work, primarily this word used of a work or workmanship of God. So you don't really see this in the English, but what he's really saying is, I've sent messengers unto them saying, I'm doing something of ministry. I'm doing some work of God. And that's important, because otherwise the answer could just be a little bit like, hey, I'm important. But he says, want to put some New Testament feel on this? I got my hand to the plow, and I'm not looking back. So he says this, and he says, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? And I want you to think about this, because these are all of the great tricks of the devil. The work would cease. Now, let me talk about this. If you want to understand about the word work, because I think some of you just maybe said, okay, yeah, I heard what she said. If I were to take the New Testament and not read from the Greek, but read it from a Hebrew translation, you'll find these words for work in the New Testament. Jesus in John 17:4 saying, Father, I finished the work which thou gavest me to do. When I tell you that this is a great work, it's a work connected to God. He's saying, hey, I have a workmanship responsibility that I am doing for the Lord. Big words, not really there, but that's the spirit of what he's saying. And the devil will always try and get you or get me to take our hand off of the work. Now you might say, well, you're on this trip about spiritual warfare. You absolutely better believe it. You know what happens when we baptize people and people have stepped out and they've said new beginnings, rededication, commitment, spiritual renewal, and the devil says, okay, which bucket of Skabala would you like first? That'll hit you later. Literally. Now, this is the great thing. I read somewhere, somebody said, well, he was on a ladder. That's why he said, why should he come down? Well, he may have been working on the wall in an elevated position, but I want you to understand that the devil will do anything to bring you down. He doesn't care. Forgive me, do you understand that the devil doesn't care how he brings you down as long as he can bring you down? Yes. You know what I'm saying? It can come from anywhere. The devil does not care. You are riding high and whoo, everything's great. And then a new bucket fell. And then you think, well, okay, I'm not making any spiritual progress. In fact, I feel like I've taken about 20 steps back. And the devil, by the way, the minute that you engage in that mindset, forgetting we are dealing with the very crafty methods of the devil to bring you down, to bring me down. And listen, here is the man who's the leader of this bunch. And he says, very aware, if he steps away from the work will cease. You know, if I step away from this pulpit, there is no work going on. I'm not saying the church can't continue, but there is no work to do. In other words, the whole work centers around the person who is leading and saying, come on, let's march forward in faith. The minute that person is brought down, which is why I've told you, be spiritual armor bearers for me. Come prayed up, pray during the week. Pray for people you know that are just hanging on by a thread, because prayer changes everything. And your faith in Jesus Christ, coupled with that prayer, changes everything. Now, let me get back to this now. Here is Nehemiah's response. I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? Now, 4 times after this sort, they sent him letters. And 4 times he answered the same way. Then Sanballat, well, you know, that tactic didn't work, so let's try something else. Then Sanballat sent his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time with an open letter in his hand. You cannot read this book without understanding some of the customs and traditions of this time. Letters were never sent open, unless they were letters of passage, like letters being sent as Nehemiah received to have safe passage or supplies. Letters were always sealed, and they were deliberately sealed to ensure that the one who was opening it authentically knew. It usually had a seal, sealing the letter, stating that this was authentically this person's message. So an open letter in his hand, wherein was written, "It is reported among the heathen." Don't you love this? So my first one, the first E we started with was emissaries from hell or close by. This one is egregious lies. I used all the E's I could. I was going to go for F's, but stuff. I'm just a sinner saved by grace. That's what I said. Egregious lies. So listen to this. An open letter. What do you think that open letter means? It means that every person that touched that letter, that saw that letter, read the letter. So that means that lots of gossip and lots of innuendo and rumors and lies were spread just like that. It is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu, that is Geshem, Gashmu, saith it. You know, if you hear it from Gashmu, it's gotta be true. And the problem is, you know, some of us will read this chapter, we'll read this book, and we will never think we have Gashmus in our life. Just like we have Sanballats and Tobias, there are Gashmus in our life. Gashmu said it, that's that. Gashmu has spoken, and this is the gospel truth, by golly. Well, this is what's being said. It's reported among the heathen, Gashmu said it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel. You're planning a rebellion. And this is why you're building the wall. See, if you fortify the city, then you can have a rebellion, and then you'll be protected. See, there's all these motives. You're a bunch of crooked builders. You're a bunch of liars. You're not here because you care about the people or the place. Not only that, you want to be their king, according to their words. Thou hast also appointed prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem, saying, there's a king in Judah. Now listen to me. This is why I started this message by painting the character of Nehemiah. Some of the saints in today's world, and I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence, but some are looking in the wrong place when they look for a leader. Anybody who's standing in the pulpit should be taking this book and using it as the compass, as the focus. And when you consider the character of Nehemiah and all that we know, and maybe it's very little. Somebody said, well, you know, I need more information before I can follow Nehemiah. I need to know where he went to school and where he grew up and what he had for breakfast every day. And when I know those things, I might consider following him to build the wall. Now, there was a greater work going on here. The wall building was preparation for a couple of 100 years later when Christ would appear. And we are doing the same thing in building up the walls of the church, if you will, in anticipation for Christ's return. Because the question he asks is, when the Son of Man cometh, will he find faith? So how does faith come? Faith comes by hearing. This is why I stand here week in and week out thinking the Lord is going to do and honor his word. It takes people to hear. I'm not asking you to do anything else except open your heart, receive by faith, and realize that we are no different than these people. And the only thing that separates us from these folks here, other than a couple 100 years, is technology that's made it infinitely more easier to produce open letters with an infinity of gashmus on the internet. Right? So, this is why you're really building the wall, Nehemiah. You are going to rebel with these people. That's why you're building the wall. You're going to be their king. And you have hired prophets to go and preach that there's a king in Judah, namely Nehemiah. Now, I ask you the question again. If you were Nehemiah, let's put it to you this way. If you were Nehemiah, at some point, and we've only covered 5.5 chapters. We're not even through the 6th chapter. At some point, you'd say, boy, Nehemiah must have really loved God's work and God's people to stay by the stuff in the face of all this junk. But he recognized exactly what it was. lies. And of course, as I said, lies upon lies. Now, he's not the only man to have this problem in the Bible. If you read the Psalms of David, you will find abundant lament on the part of David. Psalm 27, verse 12, false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. And the list in David's case is endless. Don't think that it's something so unique to me or to you. The minute you say, Lord, I desire more of you, mold me, use me, take me, that is when the devil is going to make a beeline for you. That's why I've told you before, the churches that say, oh, you talk too much about the devil, right? Because those churches aren't talking anything about God. So, you know, the devil's not going to bother them. Why should the devil? In fact, the devil will make sure that that's where the multitudes go. Now, my responsibility is to tell you we are just like these people right here. And if anyone would be caught in the crossfire of reading the open letter, let me tell you how we are as people. Our human nature, it's much easier for us to believe the bad than it is to believe the good. It's much easier to lend an ear to gossip when somebody says, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Or do you know that? It's much easier to give credence to that than it is to sit down. And so I've just told you, I've just laid out something. The discerning ones know what I've just done, which is God wasn't concerned with where Nehemiah was when he found him and began to use him. But the record is pretty clear of what Nehemiah did from the time that God laid it on his heart to the time he goes back, returns again some 12 or 15 years later, depending on which calculations you use, but I believe it's 12, concerned with the people and the place. That's it. No other motives. Now, let's read on, because I love this. He says, again, this is what the common thread is. Come now, come now. Well, here in verse 7, come now, therefore, let us take counsel together. Now, why would you or I or Nehemiah want to go and take counsel with a bunch of liars? It's like somebody says, well, why don't you sit down and try and reason with those people? Well, if you think you can reason with the devil? If you think you can reason with the devil, go ahead, but I'll tell you, I'm not going there. If you want to do that, go ahead. And this is what I love about Nehemiah. He gives these incredible answers. His first answer when he says, I'm doing great work, I can't come down. Now here he says, verse 8, then I sent unto him, saying, there are no such things done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out of thine own heart. For they all made us afraid, saying, their hands shall be weakened from the work, that it not be done. Now we might say Gashmu is maybe a person who does not like religion, or maybe he doesn't like religious enthusiasm, maybe he doesn't like people of faith, and I know a lot of people like that. As I told you, I've met people who, while they were drunkards and while they were getting high and doing whatever, nobody bothered them. And the minute they turned, they became the target of the devil, the target of brothers and sisters in the church who think, well, here's a new punching bag, here's some fresh flesh to beat on for a little while until we get that one so broken down. It's like Dan used to sing the song Sister Sal, and it's just like that. Now, whether it be from the people in the church, from your friends, from your family, and we covered the territory here because we've got these three enemies. One is a political, one might be a religious figure, and as we move down, you're going to see this is going to move right into the realm of Nehemiah's immediate frame of where he lives. The whole purpose is to bring fear, to make the people afraid, to weaken their hands so that they stop. Let me stop right here. Do you know what the whole purpose of my cry has been for 10 years? Keep trusting God. God saw something when you didn't. God saw something that obviously he showed Dr. Scott that many people didn't see. And I've told you again, God's not done with me. He's just getting started. It's taken me this long to quit kicking and screaming. Now, you take a look at yourself. You take a look at some of the folks who get so scared. God's not the author of fear. We are supposed to be a faithing people who trust God in his promises, take him at his word because he said it. So what have I said to you these 10 years? with building the church also comes battling, because when Jesus spoke of, I'll build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, meant there's going to be some battle. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And Lord knows we've been at it for a long time. Somebody said to me, don't you get tired? Well, I don't know if it's tired so much as you begin to see the pattern of the devil. And the devil tends to not use any new tactics because he knows the ones that work really well. You know what he does? He looks for people who, in their heart of hearts, they so desire to press close to God, but they become weak in the flesh. And the flesh, like an arm wrestling match, the flesh wins over to bring the spirit man down. Then they begin to question their walk, and is this worth it, and why am I here, when in fact God has given us His Spirit to give us comfort, to give us strength, to give us wisdom. So you can see these are not new tactics, but if we can create enough fear and enough panic, you leave. You know, if people can hear enough negative things about you and about what you've done in your life, they'll avoid you. Well, thank God that Jesus Christ that I serve has not avoided me and has welcomed me with open arms, and He's welcomed you with open arms, and the body of Christ is a body being built up. And anyone who comes to try and tear down, there are only two camps: those who are building for God's sake with God in the unity of their faith, or those who are tearing down and apart. And you know the ones who are tearing down and apart, it's what Christ said, if you're not gathering with me, you're scattering, and those who are scattering for the devil's sake and not for Christ's sake. Nehemiah says, you're making all this up to make us afraid, saying their hand shall be weakened from the work, that it not be done. Now, therefore, you can see, O God, is added by the translators. It's italicized. But strengthen my hands. We can definitely know the reason why the translators added, O God, was it was in the form of a bold and quick utterance, definitely aimed at God, because we know that Nehemiah received his strength from God. Afterward, I came unto the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah, the son of Mehetabeel, who was shut up. Too bad that he wasn't really shut up. This E is entrapment. He said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee. Yea, in the night they will come to slay thee. Nehemiah, they're coming for you. They're coming for you. Quick, hide. Let's turn God's house into the house of cowards. You can find safety here. You can find refuge here. The only problem is that, and you cannot read it in the King James as clearly as you can from the Hebrew, what this man Shemaiah, who, by the way, is one of Nehemiah's own people, this is not an enemy from the outside. This is why I said this covers a vast territory of people who can turn against you. He wants him to go into an area of the temple that Nehemiah is not allowed to go in, to take refuge. Let's shut the doors. Let's go inside. Do you want to know where this comes from? If you read Numbers 18, you'll see there's something so crafty here. Unless you know what God's word says, that's why you know that this Shemaiah is one of these believing Jews. Numbers 18 and verse 7 says, therefore thou and thy sons with thee shall keep your priest office for everything of the altar and within the veil. And ye shall serve. I have given your priest office unto you as a service of gift, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Was Nehemiah a priest? No. Was he of the priesthood? No. So he'd qualify for a stranger coming nigh. Therefore, if he did, he'd be put to death. See, it's almost like the devil's saying, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. So we'll try intimidation. We'll try entrapment. Here, this could have worked, possibly. If you put fear into somebody, we're not talking about the fear of God. We're talking about the fear of man. What did Christ say? Don't fear what they can do to the body. Fear what they can do to the soul. Well, this man is very wise. He says, should such a man as I flee? And who is there that, being as I am, would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. I opened my Amplified Bible because that particular passage reads just a little bit differently in the Amplified, giving you some clue of what I just read out of Numbers 18. Should such a man as I flee? And what man, such as I, could go into the temple where only the priests are allowed to go and yet live? I will not go in. So you can see, and Nehemiah says, Lo, I perceive that God had not sent him, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. Therefore was he hired, that I should be afraid and do so and sin, that they might have matter for an evil report, that they might reproach me. I want you to think about how staggering this is. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah, we don't even know who she is, except she's part of the crooked gang, and the rest of the prophets, they would have put me in fear. Let me just stop there for a second and say, what I love about Nehemiah is he says, I'm not a coward. Now, if God called you to do something, do it. And yes, you're going to have opposition. Let me go back to something that was said earlier about a great work. How should we define a great work? Well, I told you it pertains to something that is of God. And with that great work of God, there will always be opposition. And with that great work of God, there will always be difficulty. And with that great work of God, there will always be a reward for people who are faithful. When you put that in perspective, Nehemiah understood. And I love this. It's kind of in your face. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month of Elul in 52 days. 52 days to finish the wall. And, or if you want it this way, 7 weeks. And I'd like you to do one thing, because I've been trying to get some of you. You want to follow, you want to press close, and then you'll let every single obstacle get in the way. I want you to make this passage some type of a prototype in your mind. And if not for the next 52 weeks, maybe it's only for the next 52 days. I want you to plant in the back of your mind, God will have the first of you. God will have preeminence, that when you wake up in the morning, you won't hesitate to begin your day by, instead of reaching for the coffee cup first, thanking God for waking you up. In all things, including this work, which I think sometimes people seem to think, well, this will function by itself. Now, Nehemiah started something and he finished it. And our work will not be finished until God says, time's up. Oh, you kidding me? No. That should be the encouragement. That is the opportunity of faith, that you say, I'm going to get up again. I'm going to get up and recommit and rededicate myself, because I know the tactics that the devil uses and has used. Let me ask you a question. In the last year, has the devil managed, there's no crime in raising your hand, but has the devil managed to drive a wedge between you and God in a moment of time where you thought, today will be the day where I'm really, thank you for your honesty, today will be the day I'm really going to follow, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, I want to talk about, we have a saying about building cheese wedges. Well, the devil is the inventor of the largest portion of cheese as a wedge that you can think of. And boy, when he puts it between you and God, he makes sure that it creates the most stinking mess so that you will stay away. I've told you, it's a battle for your soul. Don't be afraid of that. In fact, if there are people listening to me saying, well, don't be afraid, be encouraged. If you have gone through tribulation, if you've gone through affliction, if you've gone through this, take a look at this. People from the outside who are not even part of Nehemiah's world, and people who, we might say, Shemaiah, and some of these prophetesses and people that were around Nehemiah, these would have been those, like the scripture in Micah says, that sat at his table and ate bread with him. What does the Bible say? that your foes will be those of your own household. It's not intentional. Don't think, well, you bring these divisive messages. No, it's designed for you to understand where Christ comes, there will always be division. We don't have any revelation right here of Christ, but we have a prototype of the man of faith, which we can easily say anytime somebody comes and says, I have a true burden, care for the people and for God's house, there'll always be division. Look at when Christ came. In your own time, leisurely read John 7, I believe it's John 7, 9, and 10. And 3 times you'll read, it says, and there was division amongst them. And why? Some said he's a good man. Others said he deceiveth the people. Some people say of me, well, she's a good teacher, but, and then they'll spin everything. Oh, they'll talk about Dr. Scott. I don't care what you want to listen to. At some point, you've got to start listening to God's word, trying the spirits as the word of God tells us to do. And when the truth is preached, friends, you know it. You know it. This message will stand, just like the message I looked at from 35 years ago. This message will stand 35 years from now and will not have changed. Why? Because the Word of God is being preached. And this timeless message has an application for each and every one of us. Not enough now that they're looking to harm Nehemiah, but let's move on, because there's one last category of ease here, and that begins in verse 17. By the way, let me read back in verse 16, because the wall was finished, and it came to pass, verse 16, that when all of our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. So at least they could recognize God did it. And folks, God is still doing it. Don't think for a minute that God has stopped doing, that God has stopped healing, that God has stopped making a way, that God's word is void. Don't think for a minute, because the reality is God is still the same God, the God of Nehemiah and the God of the in-between time when people say God was silent, and the God that walked on the face of the earth, tempted in human flesh, Jesus Christ. They saw that this was the work of God. Moreover, in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters unto Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came unto them. For there were many in Judah sworn unto him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Erah, and his son Johanan had taken the daughter of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. Now, there's no better way to infiltrate somebody's camp than to marry. Now you've got to deal with this person all the time. So I call these 2 verses, 17 to the end of the chapter, the emotional sabotage. There's my last E for you. And that is because it says very clearly that it says, so neither I nor my brother nor my servants, reading from the wrong place. Also, see, just checking to see if you're reading with me. Also, they reported his good deeds before me and uttered my words unto him, and Tobiah sent letters to put me in fear. So if you think about this, it never ended. It never ended. They're going to send letters and they're going to tell about Tobiah's good deeds. What good deeds? What? Tell me. Can anybody in this room tell me what Tobiah did that was good? No, you can't, because he didn't do anything good. Period. Now, what I want to say about this is that if you read this chapter, and I've taken this very, we'll call it a step-by-step approach, almost like if you would read a commentary verse by verse to show you that there were several attempts that were right at him. And don't make the mistake of just thinking, well, that's Nehemiah, because there is a Nehemiah, a myriad of Nehemiahs sitting in front of me. And the beauty is that God is still doing the same thing. He's still using people. Like Paul said in 1 Corinthians, he uses the base things to confound the wise. Still doing the same thing when he calls leaders, and he calls leaders. You don't just decide, hey, I'm going to go and do something over here. God calls people still today, like he called Moses, like he called Joshua. He's still calling people. And until a person is called with a burden, with an aim, one aim, you're not called to take on the vast universe. We can have running commentaries about the world and about the people in the world, but when you're called to the ministry, even every gift that Paul mentions, of all the gifts given to the church, they all veer back to one place, the Word of God. Whether you're a prophet, whether you're an evangelist, whether you're a pastoring teacher, they all bring you back to the Word of God. And with the Word of God and abiding in the Word of God, you can take on the world, the flesh, and the devil, knowing how to fight. God will take care of you. The next point in this chapter I want to tell you is God will take care of your reputation. Some people are worried, I think, sometimes to associate themselves with me or this ministry, thinking, well, you know what they say about her or what they said about him. God will take care of that. If you really believe in eternity, quit worrying about your reputation here on earth. You let God, who is the one who hands out the crowns, he hands out the glory. You let him decide what that reputation will be. Because only you know what you have committed to him to do. No one else knows your heart. Lastly, if you want to kind of put this all together in a package, what about Nehemiah? How did this affect him? Did Nehemiah, after this personal, brutal attack, did Nehemiah say, you know what, it's getting a little tough for me to stay here in Jerusalem. I don't like it. I thought I was going to have big fanfare here, but nobody seems to be that keen on me, so I think I'm going to hightail it out of here. No, you keep reading. He appoints people. Ezra the scribe will come in and will read the law in front of the people, and an incredible revival will happen. Why? It all starts with, if you read into the next chapter, it starts with the fact that the people were gathered, 2 chapters, I'm sorry. The people were gathered as one man. All the people came together as one man. There were no Sanballats, and there were no Tobias, and there were no Gashmus when they came together for the purpose of God. And I'm telling you this today, the devil is still a liar. The devil is still working to deceive and to lure people away and to keep you from God, to keep you from the fullness that God has promised to each believer. So, do you need talent to be a part of the work of God, this great work? No. Do you need great eloquence? No. But what you need is faith that God not only will fight for us, but that at some point, the work here, we're not building a wall like these people. They were preparing for the coming of Christ, unbeknownst to them. We're building another wall, and that's preparation for the Lord's second coming. And when he comes, I don't know about the rest of anywhere else, but I know for where I'm responsible, I will keep preaching the words that bring hearing of faith, obedience of faith, and a level of amen that says, the Lord will take care of the rest. I'm not taking my hand from the plow. The devil cannot pry my fingers off, and I am still the apple of God's eye. No matter what happens, you keep faithing. Let's keep building. That's my message. You've been watching me, Pastor Melissa Scott, live from Glendale, California at Faith Center. If you would like to attend the service with us Sunday morning at 11 a.m., simply call 1-800-338-3030 to receive your pass. If you'd like more teaching and you'd like to go straight to our website, the address is www.pastormelissascott.com.